start again. One stormy rainy day in 1968, a tall, stern-looking man stepped up on a podium. The nation he founded faced intimidation from its neighbors, and its economy was in trouble. But as he reached for the microphone, he said defiantly to his audience, "The whole world is watching us, waiting to see what we're made of. We must brave on." That man, fellow Toastmasters, is Lee Kuan Yew. The founding father of Singapore, and a man I considered Asia's first nation builder. Born in 1923, Lee was a descendant of Chinese immigrants to Singapore in the 19th century. A rebel in his youth, his education was interrupted by the Japanese invasion of Singapore in 1942. After the war, Lee went to England on a scholarship to study law at Cambridge University. There he excelled in academics and developed the communication and leadership skills that would serve him well in his future political career. Also in Cambridge, he met his wife and married her, Lee Gyok Chu, also a brilliant law student. In 1951, Lee and his wife returned to Singapore. Working as a lawyer, he made himself famous by defending a group of unionists who were on national strike. In 1954, he founded the PAP, a political party which he would lead until his retirement. Lee was initially forced into partnership with the Communist Party of Singapore in order to get their support. In 1959, in a landslide victory, he was elected the first Prime Minister of Singapore at the age of 36. Realizing that Singapore, and a small island republic with no natural resources, had limited chances of survival, Lee accepted an invitation from Malaysia for Singapore to join the Malaysian Federation. Unfortunately, Lee and his Malay counterpart was not on the same page. He believed in a united Singapore where all races, Malay, Chinese, and Indians, were equal partners. But his counterpart, Tunku Abdul Rahman, believed in the Bumiputra policy, meaning Malays' dominance in society. Consequently, Singapore was kicked out of the Malaysian Federation only after 2 years of merger. Announcing the breakup, Lee Kuan Yew cried on national television. His country faced enormous challenges. It has no natural resources, its economy was in poor shape, and there was no military to defend it against intimidating neighbors. A lesser politician would have given up, but Lee Kuan Yew was no ordinary politician. He was a man of courage and conviction, and he had a practical political philosophy. He believed that it is not whether it is right or it's wrong, it is what works. He purged his party of communist sympathizers, locked up his political opponents, and began building Singapore in a rather autocratic manner. He broke boundaries by inviting foreign companies to set up factories in the Singapore first free economic zone, giving employment to Singaporeans. That was a radical step at a time when newly independent and nationalistic nations were afraid of foreign influence. He provided incentive for foreign banks to set up branches and regional offices in Singapore, thus making Singapore one of the financial centers in Asia. He then leveraged Singapore's strategic location by creating a very efficient container terminal. That container terminal now is the second largest in the world. Lee had many achievements, but his biggest achievement was the creation of the Housing Development Board, which built public housing for Singapore, for ordinary citizens of Singapore. Today, 85% of Singaporeans live in public housing. That is 4.5 million people, almost the population of New Zealand. There's something that very few nations, including New Zealand, have been able to do. But what made Lee Kuan Yew really extraordinary? Well, he did what many Western politicians thought was impossible, skillfully walking a thin line between autocracy and democracy. His successful creation of a guided democracy appalled many in the West who disapproved of his methods. But to Lee Kuan Yew, the ultimate value of a government is whether it succeeds in improving the lives of its people. He believes that the proof is in the pudding, and the pudding is performance. Consequently, he left behind an awe-inspiring legacy, a prosperous, egalitarian, and safe Singapore. Today, Singapore is the second richest country in the world by GDP per capita, next to the oil-rich country of Qatar. Unlike many political leaders who build monuments for themselves, Lee Kuan Yew doesn't need a monument because Singapore is his monument. Lee Kuan Yew died on March 2015, deeply mourned by his people and widely admired by world leaders. Having succeeded, as he put it, taking Singapore from the third world to the first world, a monumental achievement by any measure. Thank you.